So did you watch the movie, John? John?
John.
John?
John.
John. He thinks he's on OnlyFans. They wouldn't let it on there either, though.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm John. I'm one of the blokes. I do things.
You didn't watch the movie.
Here's my explanation.
You haven't seen the movie before.
Okay. The title of the movie was very confusing. And I watched The Cabinet of Dr. Caligula or whatever it was.
Caligari.
What is it called? What?
Caligari.
Oh, okay. I wondered why it was about somebody. I thought it was about Caligula. And I thought I was going to be watching like a softcore, porn movie about like Caligula's box of sex toys or something. On top of, I made a nice dinner.
I'm gonna make a compilation video of all your excuses for not watching the movie.
Well, anyway, so then I went upstairs and I watched The Island of Dr. Caligula, and
it's becoming a different title every time. It's Dave is literally rolling his eyes. The Island of Dr. Caligula. That sounds like the
Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, and then it's the Island of Dr. Moreau. You fuckwit.
Yes.
Okay, I feel better.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you for saying what I was pulling back from saying.
Help me out, Dave. Now my brain has slipped.
Oh no, I am not helping you with this.
Let him Google it.
But no, they seriously thought that I was
kick himself
like
when
I was completely deranged.
It's right on the tip of his tongue.
Hi, I'm Dave Nesbitt, one of the Lost Blokes, some percentage thereof. I'll let you decide which one. And currently, I am drinking a water and water because after I'm done with this, I'm going to work.
No day drinking for me either. This is just iced tea that I made, but it is in a rabbit hole gin bottle. So
I've got to find that brand of gin.
It's really good.
Uh-huh.
They have it at Spirit World. But yes, I feel like the aesthetic, the font, and everything is also very in theme.
I did want to ask about, is it the Mad Hat Cat or is it Mad Hat Cat? Because I've seen you use both.
I will sometimes refer to myself in the third person as Mad Hat. But like as far as the name goes, it's the Mad Hat Cat. It's not like a proper title necessarily. It's more the Mad Hat Cat is more like a sentient object. It has a lot of eyes and a lot of limbs. It's a creator, a destroyer. It uses all the pronouns.
Cool.
You can read its origin story sometime.
Cool, I'd love to.
I'm drinking coffee.
How are you so close to the microphone and yet still so quiet?
Yeah, what the hell?
Have they already broken your spirit?
No sleep.
Oh.
I'm Dan Carlson, breaker of spirits, one quarter of the Lost Blokes, ordained Dudist minister, professor, as are the rest of the blokes, professor of comedy, birthday boy,
Yay!
and movie reviewer extraordinaire. And today three of the four of us have watched a movie. It was called The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus.
The Island of Dr. Caligula. That's the exploitation film we'll be shooting later this year.
Yes. Kat, I do not
The mouth takes an all new meaning.
I do not envy the Mad Hat Cat their responsibility this week to summarize this crazy movie in 2 minutes. But that's
actually, I feel like I have, to be fair, have not prepared it at all.
okay.
Gonna wing it.
That's how we
and
should do the 2
my
minutes.
brain is severely short on dopamine all the time, so I am want to go on tangents, but I
Oh,
still
shit.
feel pretty like I could, the sass.
Okay,
So
ready?
much sass. You're just mad because you have to
Ready?
go to work.
Yeah.
Ready? Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
You may
Alexa,
set the timer when ready.
give us a 2-minute timer.
And
2 minutes, starting now.
go, Cat.
Okay. The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus is a Terry Gilliam film, and you can tell that immediately from all of the papercraft and wild and surreal dreamlike imagery and costumes and makeup that we get throughout this entire movie. I would like to point out, by the way, that it is not only from Parnassus Pictures, I think, but Poo Poo Pictures.
Yes, I
Poo
noticed
Poo
that.
Pictures production. And the story focuses around one Dr. Parnassus, who is at least 1,000 years old and immortal. Although when we first meet him, we think this is probably, like a heightened stage show that is extremely out of its time. It has a very so it's a very higgledy-piggledy, hodgepodge, potpourri kind of aesthetic. Like, it's a little bit Baroque, it's a little bit turn of the century Victorian, it's a little bit Greek, it's a little bit Tibetan, and Dr. Parnassus has traveled all over the world, has lived all kinds of different lives and ways of being. At one point, he gets himself a daughter, and we are introduced to her. She is almost 16. She is very, very sweet, but also very much in the but I just want to leave this place and go and live a normal life instead of a vagabond. And she sounds nothing like that. Instead, most of the people in this movie, I feel like, have a pretty Londoner accent. Along the way, we also pick up a character called Tony, who may or may not actually remember who he is, and who may or may not be a seller of children's organs in third world countries in order to fund his charity to make himself look good. Like, he is all ambition.
Time's up.
And okay, I didn't do very well, but that's okay.
Yours was more
Alexa,
lucid
stop.
than ours, but
Yeah.
you didn't get as far into the.
I didn't get as far. I mean, to be honest, even though I didn't summarize the film, that's a good indication of what all is going to happen. You have a very old guy, a very young guy who's very ambitious, and a young ingenue type who just wants to leave this place. Wait, sorry.
Just from
one
the
moment.
description, it reminds
She just
me
wants
of
to leave this place.
it reminds me of the idea of like a big fish kind of movie.
Yeah, no, it absolutely has. And when I first thought of suggesting this movie, Big Fish is actually another one of the ones that I listed down that have that very, I'm sure already I know that Dave is going to call this squishy approved.
Oh, yes.
It's so very squishy. Like, sometimes it's literally visually squishy because there's giant jellyfish flying in the sky. And
Like they do.
is it a pocket dimension in the wagon? Is it actually inside the mind of Dr. Parnassus himself when he goes into a trance? We don't know. All of this, and you get confirmations and refutations. Refutations. Oh, well. You get them back and forth all the time. So as far and you're right, John, it does have kind of a Big Fish feel to it, because Dr. Parnassus, much like the main character in Big Fish, is a big teller of stories and is traveled all over the world and met all kinds of interesting characters, including someone I didn't get to in the 2-minute thing. I'm sorry, I failed.
The devil.
And
Devil.
who better to play
The devil.
than Tom Waits?
Exactly.
I forgot he was in this. And as soon as I heard him, I'm like, oh, that's right. Yay.
He's
It's
the
so
only
good.
he's the only actor whose devil actually competes with my all-time favorite devil, Al Pacino, in The Devil's Advocate.
Yeah.
Both of them, I think, and I think the reason I like both of them is because they're more about playing the game than they are the outset, than the actual ending of it.
He doesn't care
Exactly,
if he wins.
Yeah.
Just-
Well, and he's
having a
also
great time.
lonely, I think. I think he's hella lonely.
I
Like,
know somebody that's actual, like somebody who he can both compete with and also
Mhm.
converse with. Oh
Yeah.
God, yeah.
do you feel like maybe for the purposes of this movie anyway, Parnassus is God, the other guy's the devil, but they're really just there's devil in Parnassus and Parnassus in the devil. So like the devil, it's
I don't know
all
that-
very squishy in that way.
yeah, no, I would definitely say that. And in that sense, I don't know that I would necessarily put Parnassus on like onto God status. I'm trying to remember
Only
the
in the dualistic sense of this being kind of a Faustian
yeah,
tale,
like
but
he's
not,
definitely, like, we can just kind of assume that, like, in a lot of contemporary Christian inspired folklore, like, God is just kind of fucked off, like, all right, well,
yeah.
this has been fun.
So he's
have-
kind of he's
take care of
stepping
yourselves.
in.
I'll see you later.
He's a stand-in.
I don't
He's
think
stepping in.
he's stepping in. I think, like, he's basically now surrogate rival for Mr. Nick, as the devil is called in this movie.
Like God has walked away from dealing with Nick anymore, so he's got to find
Yeah,
somebody
like-
else.
I love the idea of Yahweh just being like, yeah, all right, well, I'm gonna peace out. Like, he just doesn't care. Like, it's not malevolent or anything.
No,
He's
is
done
just
with
all-
this now, and he's
it's
gonna
just
go
like-
over here.
well, that would be the Buddhist response anyway, to just walk away from that shit.
Yeah. Well, and then, like, throughout the movie, there, like I said, it's all got a very dreamy hodgepodgey, and I know that some people would look at, a Western European guy being displayed as, well, two of them, because Vern as well, being displayed as like a Tibetan monk.
Yeah.
And I do love that sequence, the whole, like, we're telling the eternal story, the story that has always been told. And there's a really great line that happens after, Mr. Nick has had his fun and
Yeah,
closed up all the mouths of the monks so that they can't tell the story anymore.
because the story is what
and-
creates reality, or
Yeah.
Yeah, so the story goes.
Yeah.
But the devil is only doing this. He's like, look, like, you can just move on from this now. This is boring. You clearly have so much more potential. I need you to get up out of this temple and go do some other shit, because I'm bored and I'm lonely. Please play with me. But then Parnassus has that great line. What is it? You cannot stop stories from being told. And that's a level. It's like, you don't understand. See, even if we're not telling the story, somewhere else in the world, someone else is telling the story.
Me and Dave kind of hit on this before everybody showed up, but it's kind of neat how it deals with stories creating reality, and when you have one person who's kind of wanting to create a, for lack of a better word, a more malevolent reality, or
Mhm.
and one wanting to create a reality where people are doing the things that are nourishing their souls. So obviously the whole thing is based on this kind of bet he makes with the devil over his daughter's soul, and he has to save 5 souls to save her, or the devil has to condemn 5 souls first. And the condemnation and the saving is not that different. The only difference is that one is the easy, quick route to get what you want, and the other one is to go a little deeper.
Yep.
And
Sometimes it's very literal, like, oh, look, there's a bar across the way, or I could climb this giant set of stairs in a literal representation of a 12-step program.
But-
I'm not an alcoholic. You're an alcoholic. Nice tits. God, fucking Martin,
but
ginger bastard. Well, and also
and
it
sometimes
has
the
that.
quick, easy thing can be deeper. It's
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I think maybe that is something that's supposed to come through a little bit more. Like it's not always about like, well, the hard way is the better way. That's very puritanical.
Right.
Like doing the hard thing for hard thing's sake.
Which is why he tells them which is why he shuts their mouths and makes them leave, or wants to, like.
Yeah. But it's also like the whole idea, like it's not the destination, it's the journey. And I think there's a lot of that going on in this movie. Like everybody who has like a specific goal in mind. For Tony, it's like being adored and famous and like marveled at as this wonderful philanthropist. Like he doesn't necessarily care about the stuff that goes into it to get there.
He wants the reward of it to be thought.
He wants the reward of it. But another way you could look at it, instead of like it's the journey, not the destination. It's not the goal, it's the choices, both that make the goal more fulfilling, perhaps in the end, and have that fulfillment last, be a little longer lasting. A little more permanent, although as Tony says as he pushes that upscale shopper down the river, remember, nothing is permanent, not even death. It's weird to see Johnny in this movie, and I know that the one of the little kind of unintentional quirks of this movie was that Heath Ledger, who was originally cast as Tony, and they shot a lot of the film with him, but he died in the middle of filming. And this, like The Dark Knight, was a posthumously released film. And so for a lot of the sequences where he is, actually maybe all of them, I guess that makes sense, being on a production team, like you're going to shoot the easy real world stuff first, and then focus on all the crazy stuff that you're going to have a lot of animation for, a lot of special effects, a little bit more wild costuming and hair and makeup. But every time, and maybe they did, I'd love to see the any kind of like behind the scenes stuff for this movie. Maybe they did shoot some of the things, some of the scenes inside the Imaginarium with Heath, but in the final cut of it, it's all played. He's always played by another actor. Yeah. And in my head, I thought that I remembered, because I've never seen this movie in its entirety before now. Glad I got to finally watch the whole thing. But I always sort of thought of that particular aspect of it as like, yeah, he goes in and yes, he's visually different, but it's not recognized by anyone else, and it's not recognized by him. Like I don't know if this is technically a way I could use this word, but it's not a diegetic facial change. Although remarkably, a lot of them do, like they get really close to looking like Heath.
There were a couple minutes where I didn't know I was looking at Johnny Depp, and I was like, that kind of looks like Johnny Depp.
Why does he look a little different in here?
Yeah.
And weirdly enough, I think that's kind of a cool bit of Tony's character, even though he is so single-minded about this one particular goal, so single-minded that he's willing to, sell third world children's organs to wealthy buyers.
Yeah.
But he's the most inconsistent inside the Imaginarium.
It's the only movie where someone chases down a charity leader and says he sells organs of little children.
God, no, that scene where he's like, it looks like he's wrestling a child. I don't know if that was a dwarf actor or an actual child. Either way, they superimposed another of the characters' faces over it that I did not get to mention. I should have just rattled off everybody on the wagon at the beginning. Yeah. But his name is Anton. He was presumably homeless before. What's that?
Andrew Garfield.
Yes, Andrew Garfield. He is presumably homeless before Dr. Parnassus sees him, sees something in him, perhaps picks him up, and he becomes part of the show. and I very much love the show of Dr. Parnassus when it involves other people. When he's alone, he's very, very sad. In the same way that Mr. Nick, when he's alone, is maybe not outwardly sad, but he's disgruntled and anxious, to say the least. You have a kitty.
Mhm.
Hi, Keith.
My favorite characters in the film are Nick, who, I will always kind of sit there and root for the devil, especially a devil who is sitting there basically trying to puzzle out and make people work on their higher or lower motivations. And I can't remember the character's name now, and it's going to drive me nuts, but Vernon Troyer's character in this.
I was going to ask you what you thought of Vernon Troyer. I thought that,
he has a very long and complicated name. Everyone calls him Percy, though.
Yeah. I think to me that
I
the
love
best part about him is that he is the one true voice of reason in all of this. He is the most grounded character in the whole goddamn thing. And he follows, I think that he is in a way kind of the super ego to Parnassus's ego.
Yes.
The one who kind of keeps him focused and reminds him of what the principles of what he's doing are. And yet he's also very focused on the real world. I love that moment when they talk about going to the west side. I think it's the west side of London and going, well, how are the filth? The filth? The police.
Yeah, no, God. Like, just, he is so brutally honest and just like will take shit from no one. And I love that he's Percy is basically a cab. He's like, yeah, what about them? Because I don't want to have to deal with them. And, but if I have to, I will throw down.
I think there's a whole laundry list of reasons why I like Percy, but he is the one person who reminds us that all of this does exist in a real world that has to deal with all of this. That, and also my favorite moment in the whole thing is when Tony redoes the entire show from the beginning to the end. And like you can and I was talking to Dan about this at the very outset before anybody else was in this, but I love how everybody views Parnassus as basically a con man, but he's actually the real deal.
Yeah.
How everybody views Tony as being the real deal, but he's actually a con man.
Yeah.
Conniest of con men.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you can see it in the way that he's
What
got
a foil.
on the show set up from the very beginning with the big thing of money saying, please take generously. It's
a very soft sell. Like it's soft as cotton balls kind of sell.
Well, it only works if someone really wants to hear it too. Like if anybody would give it a little bit of extra attention, they would say
half a moment of thought.
With as easily as he falls into that kind of Barker role, I mean, obviously it probably helps him come out of his shell a little bit more to have a mask on. But like as easily as he falls into that and just like he oozes confidence and swagger, and there are multiple times in this movie where he is just like surrounded by a flock of women, usually older women. And presumably that's because they're the ones with the money.
Well, and there's a very fluid definition of what freedom is in this movie. So freedom can be seen as getting what you want, or it can be seen as being able to actually follow your heart at any given moment. Like when she's given that kind of false fantasy image that he gives her when he brings her in, and she's on the boat or whatever, and she's like, oh, we can just lay here, to her in that moment, she's saying we're free. But
to not have to be moving all the time and to just like sit in silence, that is absolutely her idea of freedom. And it probably drives Tony crazy. Like he'll put up with it for a little bit, but he's like, I have to do something. I have to have someone tell me how wonderful I am, or I'm going to die.
And I think that's another key part is that Tony, if we're going to sit around here and compare it using Freudian psychological concepts, we've got Percy as kind of the super ego, we've got Parnassus as the ego, and we've got Tony, who is definitely the id, who hides himself as showing himself as being the higher self in that particular sense. I think that works.
I think it kind of fits that Parnassus is so kind of cosmopolitan, and I love that he kind of drifts in and out of French every now and again. Like in the very beginning, when the cops are caught, is d'accord, bonne nuit, closes curtain.
Oh, that's Christopher Plummer. I wonder if that was in the script or if Christopher Plummer.
Maybe I don't know. Christopher Plummer does such a fantastic job in this. Like he plays like kind of spacey, but also like very acute despair. He plays those both really well. I don't know. I kind of go back and forth on like Lily being so upset with herself that she's kind of lost sight of the values that her father instilled in her, and she also feels really dumb, and she feels bad, and so in order to get that bad out, she wants to be punished. She wants to go to hell. She's like, fuck it, no, I'm a horrible stupid bitch, and you get to take me now, Mr. Nick. But he's like, whoa.
I love how Nick is
you're just a kid. You don't know anything.
Yeah.
You've barely lived.
I love how Nick actually takes a step back, because at that point in time, the game's kind of over for him. And also, I think that he actually values her, sincerity a lot more than one would expect a devil to have.
Yeah, and
I mean, I think he sees her as the next incarnation of the game that he's been playing for a long time, and he's horrifyingly disappointed that he won it that early.
Right.
Well, I don't think he actually wants to win. I think he just wants to play.
Yeah.
No, that's all he wants. That's all he wants, and that's all he desires. When you're immortal, I totally get that though, because like you've got to have something to occupy your time.
That image that's in the fantasy land where he's climbing on the ladder and all these magazines are promising success. It's the promise of success. It's not the actual. It can never actually be achieved. Otherwise, it doesn't serve its function.
Well, and again, it's all about choices. You make the choice. There's a whole lot of free will-ness going on.
And Parnassus is so sick of it that he doesn't want to make any choices by a certain point.
Oh yeah, no, he doesn't. It's super great for him that he just gets to sit back and like not necessarily have to strive for anything. Like, I don't even know, I don't know what the rules of his immortality are specifically. I don't even know if he has to eat or, breathe clean air, drink clean water, get any kind of, I think maybe he definitely needs sleep. Tony is perfectly dreadful. Like would you say this is sleazy approved? Because he is sleazy? He's quite sleazy, especially when Heath is doing it, like it's like he's like barely holding back from jumping. Oh my god, why can't I think of her name? What's the daughter's name? Scrumpy.
They call her Scrumpy a lot.
Valentina, that's what. Yeah, he's like barely holding back and like touching her face. So creepy. Like, good job for the acting, but
he's a sleazy character, so the character would get sleazy approval, but I don't know that the movie rises to sleazy approval.
Agreed.
Because it's not grindhouse fare, but yeah, he's definitely in the camp. He's definitely sleazy.
He's sleazier than the devil.
Yeah, he is.
Like the devil is just like pretty chill.
Well, in a lot of dramatizations of the devil is more of a neutral character. I mean, I think of like the Pinhead in Hellraiser, where he's just like a gangster collecting on a debt more than someone who actually has malevolence. I mean, he'll full on use malevolence to his advantage, but he doesn't sit there and stew in malevolence. He's just like, hey, dude, you owe your soul. I got to do this. It's not like I won't enjoy it, but so I feel like the devil is less disturbing in here than Heath Ledger's character. Yeah. Okay. I want to bring John into the thing, because I know he, having not seen the movie, there's not a lot that he can say about it, but
he's going to watch it later and give us a little recording.
We'll edit him in later. I'm Dan Carlson, 1/4 of the Lost Blokes. We are doing a secondary day of filming because John didn't watch the movie until now, but now that he's seen it, we have his ability to participate in discussion.
I've watched about
Oh,
2/3 of it.
oh.
Well, one of the reasons that I like any film that Terry Gilliam worked on is because of the whole Monty Python thought process. Everything is a little different. Everything's a little, off. And
No, it's completely different.
yeah, exactly.
Now it's time for something completely different.
But so I'm really looking forward to this. I wasn't very happy about watching The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. And
I think this will be more pleasant than that.
I wondered why you picked it.
It'll also
this isn't like Cat. To pick a movie like this.
This is very atypical. Not quintessentially Cat at all.
Yeah, but just listening to everything, I think that this is very Cat, and I can't.
Oh yes, it's terribly dreamy, and if we're going in the supervillain direction, I would also say that if the movie itself, kind of in the same way, sleazy, not necessarily the movie itself is supervillain approved, but definitely the characters are. Every single one of them. Yeah. I love how, like, again, I know I already said eclectic, but I love how eclectic it looks.
Yeah.
The final thing that I wanted to mention was, did you all watch to the end of the credits?
I watched halfway through the credits.
Okay. At the very end of the credits, after I think all of the text has gone by, we hear Tony's cell phone ring. Oh. And it's like a MIDI version of that song that apparently Terry wrote. I thought it was a song that already existed, but we are the children of the world. We are the children of the world.
That's
and we have suffered for your sins.
That's such a song that it's perfect because he doesn't actually want to help any children. He just wants the image of having helped children. So
exactly, he's got it as his fucking ringtone.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, you performative fuck. You're so awful. I love him though.
So press play.
Yes, definitely press play. If I poor move, I asked him, like, I know this isn't like your favorite type of movie, but if you want to watch, you can. Sat through about halfway, and then I think he couldn't do it. I know that for some people it's gonna be too all over the place, but I think if you've got a day where you feel like you've got kind of an open mind, or maybe you're a little bit high, not too high though, because that could go badly with the devil on the river, rearing up his cobra-like head. Oh God, that's fucking terrifying. Gonna give you nightmares. But definitely press play, and hopefully we will get to do more on that list that I mentioned, like Baron von Munchausen and good. Big Fish.
Yeah. Dave, press play.
It's decidedly it's a press play for me, both because of the background story of the film and that it even got done, but that it actually turned out to be a remarkable film despite all of the weirdness that happened. And maybe because the weirdness allowed an opportunity to sit there and go, let's tell the story in a different way.
So, I like the movie. It's weird, and it has things in it that are not in other movies. Yeah. I press play. I'll have to press play later to watch the rest.
Yes.
I'm gonna say press play. I liked the fact that it's always Terry Gilliam. It's always very playful and
Yeah.
fun, even, and then still delves into like some serious stuff.
Have you seen it before?
I have not. This is my first time. I had no idea what it was about, other than I kind of knew what to expect just because it's Terry Gilliam.
Yeah.
Well, and also just the name of it, the Imaginarium of
Yeah.
Dr. Parnassus, like
Which is-
that has.
which John actually.
You don't even need to know anything about the movie. You know what's coming.
I gave John a hard time earlier because that's my comedy shtick. But actually, he's right. The title is very confusing, and I could totally see somebody forgetting what we're supposed to watch when they hear that title and going with something else that sounds.
Totally
The movie that I confused this title with is Mr. Megorium's Super
Magical Emporium. I know which one I've
was gonna
seen
say
a
Drug
part of that on
Emporium.
HBO when I was a kid.
Drug
Yeah.
Emporium.
So those are the two movies that I was confusing. I had to actually go, oh, wait a minute, it's this other one. But yeah,
Okay, well, next time I'll be sure to because I like and this shows
you
up in
didn't
my
name
own
the
work.
movies, so.
I name things. I cannot give things short, pithy titles. I give them long, flourishy, extravagant titles.
Oh,
So yeah, that's yet another reason that I love this movie. It's just because of the title.
I'm kind of.
I hear you, Kat. I did the same thing to my youngest son.
Oh yeah, tell us.
Yeah,
tell us.
his name is Julian Albert Vincent Gabriel Armand Kadolf.
Oh yeah, see it's
Seriously, dude, if you don't like kids, don't have them.